Zoom YouTube broadcast. All right. We're live and live, baby. Oh, wait, hang on. We're on private. Can you make sure it goes to public?
What do I do?
Ooh. Hold on. Let me see if I can. All right. Are you in the are you on the YouTube channel or are you just in the Zoom?
Now I'm on YouTube. It sends me to YouTube once I go live. I didn't
Yeah,
know it.
see if you can change the stream. It's listed as private, but I can log in as a manager. Let me check.
Should I just stop the live stream or should I?
No. You just keep it going for now. Hold on. Edit video. So this is why we need Jackson.
Yeah, I've never had this issue. I know we're live, but apparently it's private. Well, Chris Thomas is chatting with
No, hang
us.
on. It's visibility says public now. So hold on. Let me just close this and I'm gonna restart YouTube.
Okay. We'll start the recording here in a minute. Those who are joining.
Yeah, if you're in the pod, if you're in the chat, apologies for not being on our game here.
We're shook by losing. One of us wasn't shook tonight, and it wasn't
No,
even.
one of us stayed the course. All right, it looks like we're live. I don't see anybody in here, but that's all right. We can deal with that for now.
Okay. We so feel good about
Yeah,
that.
go ahead and record. I'll keep checking back in. We'll see if anybody joins up.
One thing I'm worried about is on my Zoom feed, it says preparing live stream still. And I don't remember seeing that before.
I'm logged in not on the jungle. I'm logged in. Oh no, wait, I am logged in on the jungle. Let me log back in on my regular YouTube account and make sure it looks like we're live.
Yeah, I just
Ugh,
hope.
we had to take a loss, but why did the first one have to be this one, man? God, I hate Nate Oates.
He's so good. It's annoying.
Oh man, he's a terrible coach. Anybody can say only take high value shots. All right, I see three people are watching. So
I think
all
we're
right,
good.
Chris Thomas says we're live. Ryan Norman's in there. He wants us to talk about lights on.
Oh, we're gonna get to the lights. We're gonna get to the lights. All right. Ready to
Oh man.
start
All right,
recording.
let's go live, baby.
All right, everybody. Sadly, Auburn loses their first conference game in a tough, close one at Alabama in a terrible arena, 79-75. The losing streak's over. We got to see a close game. We've been wanting to see this team in close games. Didn't quite pull it out. They're down 14 at halftime. We'll get into all of it. We're not going to have an MVP because we lost. If you're new to the show, MVPs are for winning performances, although we know who it would have been if we had pulled it out.
No.
So now Auburn's first place, tied for first place with Tennessee and Alabama in the SEC. So that's a good thing. But 3 losses in a row to Alabama, not what we want. Got swept last year. We swept them 2 years
You gotta
ago.
say it like that, man. Why
I
do you gotta
know,
say
but
it like that?
I just need people like that's a problem. And that game in Neville, I mean, we gotta get that one. Anyway, Ben, thoughts on a tough loss? We knew it was going to be a tough game. We were the underdog going in, and
All
it
right.
was. It's,
No. Hold on. Listen, we gotta take a step back here. First of all, this is our first quad one opportunity since the start of the season. We were up 9 at the half and blew a lead. We looked like we didn't know what we were doing to close the game late. We were down 14 points at the half in a hostile environment, in a stadium that could barely keep the lights on. We had everything going against us. And what did this team do? They clawed back. They took the lead in the second half. They hit free throws. They didn't hit quite enough. But, this team took a really painful loss tonight. And I think we talked going into the season about where are the opportunities for good losses. It's never a good time to lose, but there are good teams to lose too. And a team like this that you could have beaten in their house in a hostile environment. You've already lost to Alabama twice in a row. You know Jalen Williams is sick of losing to these guys. You think this is going to stick in our craw a little bit? We've been spending weeks listening to positive media coverage, everybody talking about how we get the best second unit in America. Man, did they get exposed tonight. I know Bruce is in that locker room right now looking at all these guys that are torn up about losing a close game. and saying, boys, you want to make history. It starts with what you do in practice tomorrow.
No, so that's the thing with Bruce, right? Like he is so good at when things are going well, he is like, Satan against them. Like he is like going to try to motivate them. He is going to push them. He's going to say they're not good. He's been saying for weeks, we're not as good as they think they are. And tonight he was right, and I think but he is great in these moments of he's going to have to remind these guys it's one game. It's annoying. We're going to get them back at our place. We're okay. Like a lot didn't go well. We'll talk about all the things that didn't go well. You love to see the fight.
Before we get into the sad parts about the things that didn't go well, because we're going to have a little bit of debate about what the key stat was for this loss tonight. Let's talk about some of the things that did go well. Let's talk about the performance of our big man, who for the second season in a row got fouled out in the dumbest possible way by terrible officiating, Johni Broome. He finished with 25 points, 11 of 17 from the field. He had 50% from three. Granted, he only shot two, but he started a game hitting a three-pointer in minimal lighting to get us up 3-0 before we took a 20-minute break from play. He finished with 14 rebounds, including 10 defensive rebounds and 5 blocks. I mean, Johni Broome was everywhere. You could tell this game meant a lot to him.
Oh, he was unbelievable. I think at one point he had 20 of our 39 points. He was really the only consistent weapon we had against Alabama. And if you've watched Alabama, you kind of thought that might be the case. But he played really great. Honestly, really good effort. You can always pick a few things with him that maybe you don't love. I thought we could have gotten into him more. If you look at, I know Jay Williams was big on that, but you haven't watched Auburn very much if you don't know that we're not going to throw it in the post like a ton. So anyway, he was fantastic. The want to was there. The execution was there. Hitting his free throws, 11 for 17 from the field. He was terrific, and only one turnover. With how much he had the ball in his hands, was really impressive.
Johni Broome allegedly committed 5 fouls in this game. Allegedly, I'm going to say that one more time. He was only fouled twice, but he went 2 of 2 from the line. He hit his free throws in clutch time. We talked so much about how his ability to finish those 3-point plays was going to make a difference.
And the block party, he had like 6 blocks, didn't he?
Yeah, he finished with 5 total blocks. Just absolutely a force, including a block of Mark Sears at the 3-point line. It was just huge in the second half.
By the way, Ben, you're a tad quiet to me than you usually are.
Oh, all right. I got to hold the microphone closer.
Maybe that might help. And other people may not hear that. I'm just going to point it out. So, yeah, Johni was great. And the question in the first half was like, is anybody going to join him offensively at least? But even he, like, I think and I guess we can talk about good things. I'll stick with your idea. Okay, we'll talk about the good things. Being down 14, and it was worse than that actually, because Auburn was up 8 at the first TV timeout. 15 minutes left in the first half. Just great start, hit shots, turned Alabama over. And then from that point on, it was minus 22 the rest of the first half. And it could have been a lot worse. I think we scored 16 points in the last 15 minutes of the first half. And it started, like you said, with the backups really struggling in that lineup that we've grown to love so much. In this spot, at least in the first half, they struggled.
Jackson's in the chat here. He's wanting us to talk about the key stat already. And we're kind of
getting to come on the podcast if he wants to.
It's our podcast now. But let's keep talking about the positive just before we get into maybe some of the things that went wrong besides that first half. Obviously, you build yourself a 14-point hole. It's going to be real hard to come back on the road. Let's talk about the play of Chad Baker-Mazara. I think one of the plays that's going to stick in everybody's mind was he went 2 of 3 in his final free throws that maybe didn't make the game, put it a little out of reach a little earlier than it was a little bit later. But he was our only other player to score in double figures. He finished with 11 points tonight. He had 3 steals on defense. So he forced 3 turnovers that were huge in a night where Auburn committed 11 turnovers on offense. And, 5 of 7 from the free throw line, not brilliant numbers, but that's hitting more of your free throws than you're missing. And I got to give it to him. I think Chad Baker-Mazara played a heck of a game tonight.
Yeah, I thought he had a good second half. I thought All of our three position guys were liabilities at times on defense. He did force some steals. Don't get me wrong. He again, I'm continually captivated by Chad Baker-Mazara. Like off the ball, he is a menace, and he gets his long arms in passing lanes, and he swipes at the ball well. But it was interesting. One of the most interesting things to me was us playing our 2 and 3 guys on Sears. Really, the whole game, we didn't trust our point guards, or we chose to put more size maybe against Sears on the ball. And we settled into playing KD in Denver, to start possessions against him. And I think that was a better move. But look, Chad played great. This is Chad's first game like this, right? On the road against a team like this, in that environment, in this rivalry. I thought he settled in the second half. He's not scared of the moment like his buddy KD. And he was fortunate to get a foul call, in my opinion, on the 3 free throws. Kind of felt like a ball don't lie situation a little bit with him.
He got hit on the hand. He got hit on the hand.
That's because he flailed his right arm out, and it wasn't even a shot. I mean, it was he flops around and it works, and I'm thankful for it. And if we had won the game because of it, I would have been singing the praises. But basketball karma is real sometimes, and I wish he would have made it. But so he was good though. You're right. And ultimately, I think the positive is you get hit in the mouth like we did at the end of the first half. You're down 14 on the road. They fought well. They won every segment of the half. Between TV timeouts, they won every segment in the second half. They defended the way they needed to defend. They played with great effort and energy. When it looked like in the first half they were like in Colorado, couldn't breathe or something, like halfway through the first half. And they matched the physicality, which I was really disappointed in the first half. That's what had me shook. By the way, if you were on the live before we started recording, Ben was the calm one, everybody in the group chat. I pride myself on being the calm one. I was freaking out at halftime. And the point of the freak out was I just was so disappointed with us getting pushed around and honestly looked a little out of shape. We looked like we couldn't match the pace of Alabama, which is if we're going to play 11 guys and play the way we've played this year, we better be able to stand up and play at a high tempo. And it felt like they weren't calling fouls. And the game was there were lots of long game action. And we just kind of struggled. So I was encouraged in the second half to see us bounce back from that, dig deep. We fought really hard. We got ourselves back in the game and gave ourselves a chance to win against what I think is a good team. Do you think Alabama's good, Ben?
I think Alabama offensively is really great. The analytics bear that out. I think defensively, the fact that we were able to score 45 points in the second half just shows, again, how porous their defense can be at times. And the thing that we struggled with in the first half was the turnovers. Our turnovers were so uncharacteristic of us. But even when you go back and look at the box score, it wasn't that bad. We had some 20 turnover games last season that we somehow managed to win because we were more talented.
Didn't we have 9 or 10 in the first half, though? Didn't we have 9 or 10 turnovers in the first half?
Yeah, we finished the first half with 10 turnovers. Guess how many we finished the game with?
11. We only had 1 in the second half. So that's the disappointing part. So you're right. It was on the level. 10.5 is on the level of some of those bad games we used to watch. Yeah.
And we finished, but here's the key stat for you and me, because you and I are the guys that have been loving how well we've moved the ball this season. We only finished with 11 assists. 11 assists on 28 made baskets. That's less than a 50% assist rate. That means we were relying a little too much on hero ball, a little much on ISO play, which is not really our game. And some of that comes down to how effectively Johni Broome was able to create his own shot once we finally got him the ball inside. But even more of that just says that we weren't moving the ball as effectively as we've been all season.
I'll give Alabama credit. I thought they defended us really well. I didn't see a ton of just blatant missed opportunities where we weren't moving the ball. I thought especially when they clamped down in the first half, it was kind of tough out there. Everybody got a little deer in the headlights, and you know how it is on the road when things start getting out of hand. But you're right. The frustrating thing that we can control is how many did we have in the first half that were just fumbled out of bounds. I think Chad Baker had 2. Jalen had 1. That was just literally just dropping the ball or stepping out of bounds, when it wasn't necessary. So those kill you. And then the live ball turnovers, which gave Alabama some easy points in the first half when we were winning. Those were just killers. And you kind of know it when you're watching these games on the road, that if you start just giving away possessions and you give away points like that with turnovers, it's just hard to overcome. And the reason Jackson and me and everybody's freaking out at halftime is because we know how hard it is to dig out from a 14-point hole and actually win and finish the game. It is extremely difficult if you're not the 2019 Auburn Tigers.
Yeah. And we're not that team, and we definitely weren't that team tonight. We finished 5 of 25 from the three-point line. That's a high contender for our key stat of the game.
Yep.
We only had 4 players make a three-pointer tonight, and Trey Donaldson was the only player who made more than 2, which I think probably brings us to the next thing we need to talk about. Some of these weird lineups, especially at the end of the game. Matt, we fielded a lineup without a point guard out there. What was going on?
Oh my goodness. Funniest thing of the evening to me, we have not been in this position. The A&M game was close and we kind of pulled it out at the end. The App State game was close and we lost. But like this team we've been beating everybody by double figures and it's just a totally different game. So, I think we're down 3 or we're down 1 and Grant Nelson's going to the free throw line and we're all texting, what do you do? What do you want to do? And, we're all like, maybe we get it to Jalen for a 3, or maybe we get it to Broome inside if we want to play quick and get a quick shot and extend the game. And I kind of said, well, they're probably going to foul us, which they did. But the hilarious thing was I would love to hear the reasoning. Press, you're not listening to our podcast. You're interviewing Bruce right now. But I would love to ask, I know we put Denver Jones in for defense for Aiden Holloway. I get the defensive substitution there. But we called 2 timeouts with Grant Nelson on the free throw line. We had 2 timeouts to get a point guard in. So I believe Chad Baker-Mazara is throwing the ball in with 11 seconds left down 3, he never throws the ball in, by the way. Jalen throws the ball in. The 4 position in this offense throws the ball in on the baseline. There's no point guard on the floor. Denver Jones is in the deep corner on the other side of the floor. KD's the only person near the ball. And Chad has to awkwardly, as he's falling over the line, throw it to Jalen at midcourt. Jalen gets fouled and he misses a free throw. And he kind of Jalen had a bad game. So everybody who's going to leap off that bandwagon because he, missed some shots. But that's a weird last possession. Jackson hates the forced 3-pointer that is just so unlikely to go in. And I kind of said, oh, that'll probably happen. This was weirder and worse. We probably wouldn't have won anyway. Yes. We're down 3, but that was just weird. I have no idea why. We haven't done that all year. I don't know why would we have done that.
I think there was so much about this game, from the way that it started to the way that it was officiated to the fact that we lost Johni late on some ticky-tack foul calls. So much of it was us out of our comfort zone. And those are the things that are going to happen when you spot a team a double-digit lead at the half. Yeah, it's so much more comfortable and familiar to be trying to defend the lead and trying to figure out what's going to give you your best thing, your best lineup, than it is trying to figure out how can we pull something out of a hat that we've never done before. And
we can't do that to ourselves, though. I hear your point, and I want to ask you about the officiating in a minute, but we can't put Lior by choice against Mark Sears multiple possessions in a row. I saw some people freaking out about that. That was bad.
Yeah. Really bad.
Even if we're guarding him with the 3 position in our defense, somebody's got to call that off or get a sub in or call timeout. We can't do that for 2 or 3 possessions. And then at the end, I'm sure there was a reason. I hope there was a reason. But if there's a reason, it wasn't clearly. Our players did not look like they knew what to execute off the 2 made free throws by Grant Nelson. So that's discouraging. We've talked for years about how that's just not a strength. This staff, this team over the years has had so many strengths. They're the winningest program in the SEC over the last 7 years. They're great. We're not hating on anybody. I don't really question coaching very much because I think they do a really good job. That felt really weird and disappointing. And it's not why we lost. We probably would have lost anyway. But that's weird, and we don't need to do that again.
It's weird to see us fail in a clutch moment because that seems like, these special teams plays that the broadcasters like to talk about, out of bounds, late possessions, set plays. Bruce normally excels at that. It's very weird for us to get caught looking like we don't know what we're doing and where we're going. Matt, I need you to vamp for a few minutes, and I'm looking here at the box score. It's super interesting when you go by stat, it actually looks like we won a lot of these individual statistical battles. And some of that was with how great that second half was. But where do you find the weakness in this performance?
The weaknesses to me were threefold. Okay. Number 1, 3-point shooting is obviously big on the road. Jackson talks about it all the time. You got to be able to hit some shots. 5 for 25 It's just tough to win against a good team on the road when you shoot 5 for 25. I thought we got a lot of really good looks. I didn't think we necessarily forced a ton of threes. We just didn't make them. And when you go down the list, KD probably forced some, but Aiden had some really good looks. He just missed. And Jackson wants us to talk about Aiden and his green light. And like, I'm sorry, Aiden's gonna shoot threes. Like he's gonna shoot a lot of them every game, and that's just part of it. And I hope he settles in and can kind of build some confidence. Rough game for him, 0 for 7 from the field. And we could talk about like taking it away. I just can tell you it's not going to happen. Honestly, was a little surprised that we closed the last 4 minutes with Aiden on the floor and not Trey. That's always a fun thing with this team. But so I think 3-point differential, Alabama was plus 18 and made threes in terms of they made 6 more threes than us. So that's huge. That helps explain it. And then, to me, the biggest weakness for us was just it's hard to overcome a stretch of 15 minutes being minus 22 on the road. And you can't dig yourself a hole like that and expect your win probability is just so low. This team did a great job fighting back. They played really hard. They played physically. It mattered. They had a chance to win it. But it's just hard. You just don't get rewarded very much when you go down like that to a good team. And I think Alabama's very good. But honestly, it's 3-pointers and then it's first half turnovers to me, are the big keys. And then just defensive want to in that 15-minute stretch in the first half was just severely lacking. Late closeouts, not communicating well, who's going, who's where at times. There were a couple of possessions where just things that haven't really happened all year. And you credit some of that to Alabama, but really disappointed in that stretch, especially. That's the worst I've seen us play. Not from a scoring stand. It's just like how we're playing the game together. We didn't look connected. We didn't look like we were kind of engaged with each other on both ends. And then there was some, whether Alabama forced it or whether we allowed it, there was some poor shot selection too. That, like Ben mentioned, the lack of assists, I think, is a big deal. 11
Hang on, I want to jump in on that. I want to jump in on that poor shot selection because especially when you go back and look at some of Jalen's 3-pointers, I thought they were good shots.
Great shots. I said that while you were gone. I thought our 3-point shot selection overall was good overall. KD's was kind of bad, maybe a couple other guys, but overall, I thought we got a ton of good threes, and we it's hard to shoot 20% from 3 on the road against a good team to win.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And the fact that, again, we just came off a game where we had 8 players in the first half make a 3-pointer. And then you come back here and we don't even have, we had 4 guys. We had 4 guys make a 3-pointer. So now you're talking about that ability to spread the floor and keep a defense honest has almost been completely eliminated. It's a change up, and it's a change up midweek. And I think that might have been what scared this coaching staff with our rotations a little bit. The combination of the weird start and the combination of what looks like a completely different team from the team we saw against Ole Miss on Saturday night.
Well, and I don't know if we changed a ton until that last sequence. That was just weird.
We had some moments earlier that I thought were interesting. We had a sequence with all of the backups in and Jalen, and we had another sequence with all of the backups in and Johni. And I think that's the first time I've seen Johni out there with
second half. We were kicking butt. Yep.
Yeah. So there were some elements I think we found that really worked, but a lot of it was just, this was our first opportunity at a quad 1 basketball game on the road in a minute. And we saw some growing pains from this team. But in a lot of ways, I'm not ready to hit the panic button yet. Obviously, it would have been nice to go up 2 games on Kentucky and 2 games on Alabama. But right now, we're in a 3-way tie with Alabama and Tennessee for first place in the league. We're still 1 game up on Kentucky, mighty, unbeatable Kentucky. And we got another quad 1 opportunity coming up on Saturday when we go on the road to Mississippi State.
I'm not trying to brag about Alabama, but I just think taking how you're going to take this game, I think, is dependent on how you view Alabama. It's easy to look at them having 6 losses and be like, they don't play defense. And they're like, but when you look at who they've lost to, they have 1 or 2 bad ones. But they played a bunch of good teams and they lost a bunch of close games to those teams. And we talked this week, the 6 losses, all 6 winners had scored 85. And we know that's not how basketball works. We could have obviously won in the 70s or the 60s, but my question was, could we score 85 on the road? And you're not going to do it shooting threes like we did today. I think Alabama's really good. The metrics, I mean, they're like top 8 in KenPom before today with 6 losses. Like the metrics love them more than they love us when you look at records and how we've performed.
Just offensively, just offensively.
Well, but overall, no, overall in the overall team rankings, they're like top 10, top 12 in net in KenPom. Like they're legit.
Overall, we were 4 in KenPom coming into this game.
I know, but I'm just saying for a 12-6 team, they're if you think Alabama's trash and their defense is terrible and they're no good and their crowd stinks and all this, like that's fine. I just think I find myself watching Alabama and I just have a respect. I hate them, but I respect what Nate Oates has done because it is no fun to guard those dudes on defense. Like when they're hitting threes like they were for stretches. Now we ended up out shooting them overall, and they ended up cooling down to 37% from 3. But then they shoot 40% as a team on the season, and like you see the potential of that. And there's not much you can do if a team's going to knock down threes from the logo by a guy who's been super inconsistent all year in Rylan Griffin.
I mean, look, what you can do is you can let Ryan Griffin go 4 of 5 in the first half because guess how he finished the game? He finished the game 5 of 10. He only hit one more three-pointer the whole rest of the game. So again, you talk about scheme-wise, and especially the way that the coaching staff prepared this team, that's the guy you want taking those shots. That's the situation you want him taking those shots in. I mean, we had a moment where we very nearly forced them into a shot clock violation, and they kicked out for a desperation 3 that Sears finally hit. And I think that might have been his first three-pointer of the game.
Yep.
So that's the magic of playing at home sometimes. You're used to being in that stadium. You didn't have to travel. You're in your comfort zone. And we stretched this Alabama team, especially in that second half, to the most I think they've been stretched at home by any other team.
You got to give credit to Mark Sears. Like, he is the engine that drives that team. They built it all around him. It reminds me of like the Luka Doncic, isolation around one guy, but he is hard to guard. I thought our 5 guys did as good as they could do. Cardwell and Broome trying to stay with him when they would get those switches, but they spread the floor like an NBA team. And he had 8 assists. He did have 5 turnovers, but he played 38 minutes. He played the whole game. He had a rolled ankle a week ago, and you got to give him credit for when he's 1 for 5 from 3. He just impacted the game in so many ways, and he is a crafty, good player that I just respect a lot how he played.
Yeah, he turned the corner really well. He made his shots, and if Ryan Norman were here, he would love for us to be talking about once again how do you win in college basketball? You win by getting older. Mark Sears is an old player. He's been around the block. He's a transfer into this Alabama system. He came here to play that ISO ball that he played tonight. When we go against guys like this, we have to know they're going to get their points. And, 22 points, nothing crazy for him. If you remember this Auburn team last year, whenever we went up against star players, they wouldn't just hit their numbers. They would exceed their numbers. We're talking like 25, 30 points a game, numbers that are huge in college basketball. And, even until late, I thought we actually did a pretty good job corralling Mark Sears. We were trapping towards him, which I think messed up some of our defensive assignments a little bit. We had guys like CVM overplaying the help defense a little bit more than we needed them to. But, overall, I thought our scheme was okay.
It was okay. We made him take 21 shots to get 22. You're right. We made him work. I thought we made him work pretty hard, but he's just – it's tough to guard these guys. Everybody else that they put on the floor, they're a little small. Broome kind of exposed, that a little bit. But, everybody can shoot. And you have to make your decisions early on, okay, are we going to run guys off the three-point line and limit that and give guys lanes to the rim, which we did a lot. And it's just hard to hold them down. I mean, I thought the second half we did it. I told you I would have been thrilled to hold them to 35 in the second. We held them to 35. I thought we did a great job, and they still scored 79, and held.
We got Miles Norgren in the chat here wanting to know if Nate has Bruce's number. And I think, Matt, that's a great point. I think scheme-wise, you can't make the argument that Nate has his number. Because if you look at the way that we performed in that second half, we figured some stuff out. We saw what they were doing. We made some adjustments, and it slowed the game down for us. We got Chris Thomas here who wants to say that you can't get assists if we miss open shots. I think that's really true. I think we passed to some great open players, particularly Aiden Holloway and Jalen Williams, that just couldn't hit the ocean from a boat tonight. That's going to happen some nights on the road. We saw it happen against App State. It happened again tonight. That's going to hurt our assist game. Jackson's in here saying that the subs were bad all game. I don't know that I entirely disagree with that. I think we got some good minutes from Chaney. and some bad minutes from Chaney.
What does that mean?
Say again?
What does that mean? The subs were bad.
Yeah, I get that's kind of my point. I don't agree with that take because I think we got some good minutes from the subs, and I think we got some bad minutes from the subs. And I think if you expect to only get good minutes from your second lineup on the road against good competition, you don't know ball, Jackson.
Well, I mean, like I know it from our group text, he was disappointed. He thought Dylan played too long in the second half and Johni wasn't in, but we were also like making up ground. So like, and I was telling him, I think that's the hardest thing about coaching is like, it just, especially when you're dealing with a deep team like this, and there are multiple positions where it's like, I don't know, who do we want to play at the end, and when do we put this guy in, and when do we? It's tough. It's harder than it seems, I think. And
I mean, successful manager is in the chat saying that it's ridiculous we had Broome on the bench for 8 minutes in the second half. That's another take I feel like I got to disagree with, especially when you look at Dylan Cardwell's game over the last 3 in conference play. We've gotten quality minutes from Dylan, and Dylan played some of the fewest minutes that he has tonight. I think he finished with 14 minutes played in this game. That's the lowest number of minutes we've seen from Dylan, I think, in a couple of weeks.
And I mean, look, couple things. Johni took himself out in the first half because he could not breathe. So, and you have to also keep in mind, and I didn't really think about this until tonight, but like none of our guys have played 30 plus minutes all year. Zero.
Only Dalen.
Dalen did that one game.
One time against A&M.
So I hear you. And like, yeah, maybe we get Broome in there sooner. But it's hard for me to like push back a ton. I was a little surprised. I will agree with the commenter on that. Like it went 2 or 3 minutes longer than I thought it might. But I do understand Broome's working hard, dude. Like the minutes he played tonight when he was on the floor, I mean, and he's not the most athletic dude in the world. Like he's just not. So and again, if we weren't making up ground in the second half while Cardwell was on the floor, I would totally agree with you. But maybe it was a couple minutes late. I could understand that take, but I didn't think it was terrible. I thought Cardwell was in the second half while he was on the floor.
So Matt, I might have missed this while I had to step away briefly, but did we settle on what our key stat is going to be for this game? What do you think? Was there one glaring thing that stood out for you in this loss?
I mean, I have a non-stat and a stat. My stat's just 3-point shooting. I mean, it's just it's plus 18 for them in terms of points when you make 6 more threes. It's 20% on the road. That's just going to be tough to beat a good team when you shoot 20% from 3, unless they also shoot really bad from 3. And that did not happen. We did a lot to try to make up for that. And I think if you watch the whole game, the flow of it, it's like, man, we're having to overcome turnovers in the first half, and we're having to overcome Alabama's making everything. And we almost did it. We almost pulled it off, which maybe that's the silver lining is that we still almost won this game on the road against, what would have been our best win of the year by far.
If I could pick the key stat, it's definitely almost. It's the almost factor. It's that comeback, that roaring comeback where you're looking up with a minute to go and we really had a shot. And, again, we love Chad Baker-Mazar on this podcast. He makes that free throw and the game is tied. Who knows if Alabama chokes going down the stretch. So there are a lot of moments at the end of this game that leave you asking, who knows? This is not Kentucky going to South Carolina and getting blown out and finishing the game losing by 15. So it's hard to – I think I got to agree with you there. I think when you look at it that way, when you look at an 18-point differential from the 3-point line in a 4-point loss, Jalen makes a couple of 3-pointers or Aiden makes 1 or 2 down the stretch, and we win this game.
Yeah, and I would just encourage people to not, like, pile on too much there. Like, it's anything really at the end of the game because Chad Baker-Mazar hits that free throw great. It's 12 seconds to go. Alabama, unless they just have a complete meltdown, is going to, at worst, go to overtime. They're in the double bonus or they make a shot. And then we have to win on the road in overtime. So, like, I just think people can get a little weird about small things at the end of games when it doesn't guarantee you anything. We still would have had to earn it. And I'm not sure we would have been able to pull it out. And
I'll be super interested to see how this affects our metrics for sure.
It won't hurt us bad at all. I mean, because Alabama is so good at the metric. So, like, on the road against a team like that isn't going to hurt us much. It'll hurt us in the polls. And we talked about today in our group chat, like, the narrative for this team nationally feels like it's going to be kind of defined because the SEC is so much better at basketball now. Everybody cares about it, but nationally, I still think there's kind of like whatever. Tennessee's isn't usually good. Kentucky's good. Alabama's won. Auburn's won some. Whatever.
What do we say down south? What do we say down south, Matt? They ain't played nobody, Paul. They
They
ain't
haven't
played
played.
nobody.
Our season is going to be looked at by people based on the 4 games against Tennessee, Alabama, and Kentucky. So unfortunately, 0-1 to start that. But it was a road game. We knew it was going to be tough, and it's just even tougher. And the non-stat for me, I felt like for the first time all year, we'd only been down once at halftime by 2 all year. And the first half, that stretch was the first time I've seen us let go of the rope, is like a phrase. It started going badly, and there was kind of some looking around, and there was some like, you're not doing your job, and I'm not hustling out to this shooter, and we're not matching the physicality of what Alabama was doing. It's the first time all year that I've really felt that and seen that. So my non-stat that you can't put in a graphic is you can't do that for 15 minutes in a game like this and expect to get away with it. And that's the lesson.
You can't do it for 5 minutes. The last 5 minutes of that first half, it went from single digits to suddenly us being down 14 in such a short span of time. But we got Josh Lindsay in the chat saying fight and effort. Granted, I wanted more late. We definitely appreciate that. And we got Chris Thomas in the chat. He's saying, look at this. We're 6 games in. We're a third of the way through the SEC season, and we're 5-1. We're in the driver's seat. We can hang the banner. Matt, you hate predictions, but what do you need to see from this team? How about just on Saturday to feel like we're still in that ring chasing mode?
I mean, look, your margin for error is gone. So it was great that we got this 1-game buffer by Tennessee beating Alabama at home, but you kind of knew that was a tough spot for Alabama. I think Tennessee is really good. I think that's going to be a brutal trip for us when we get there. It would be a great win if we could steal it. But, the thing you have to look for is how do we respond to a loss for the first time in a while? And like you said, it's a quad 1 opportunity on the road again. You just can't, and we're playing in less than 72 hours in Starkville, a place that we've historically not played well, like most places in the SEC. So, can we let this one go and get our first quad 1 win on Saturday? And if we can stay in first place, get a win on the road, then come back next week for Vanderbilt at home. Look, we're in ring chasing mode regardless. Okay, once you get in ring chasing mode, you don't leave it until you're eliminated. So we are
Donaldson. I wanted to hear. Yes,
ring chasing because we're in first place. Of course, we're ring chasing, but every loss hurts because you're probably going to have to go, 14-4, something like that to win. Maybe 15-3. We'll see. But you just got to take it one at a time. We need a good. We said earlier today is I think you take a split in these two. Unfortunately, I know we want to win them all, but if you zoom out, you knew this one's going to be tough. Mississippi State, you've been a little higher on them than some other people. It's a tough game. We got to try to get one, and we can't get this one, so we got to get the next one.
I think we said at the beginning of the week, or at least I said, we're coming into a fun 3-game stretch. We had the narratives with the Ole Miss game. I think a lot of people thought Ole Miss was a paper tiger, but they were ranked going into that game. It was the Flanagan's homecoming. We knew that Allen left for greener pastures. How are we going to respond? Was he going to come back in and prove that he was the guy? We knew we had to go on the road to a reeling Alabama team that had the chance to right the ship against us. And now we're going to finish that triple header going on the road against a tough Mississippi State team that the analytics love, that maybe they're a little bit better than their record shows. Mm-hmm. If we could go 2-1, we're still in it. If we go 1-2, now we're in some trouble trying to chase for a title, and we're back to maybe just chasing for that double bye in the SEC tournament.
Yeah, I'll disagree with that just because I think even if you lose 2, Bruce's message would be we control our own way in. There's nothing giving up. We're good. We just got to win games, and we got to win at home, and then we got to steal them on the road. So I think we're in it. I think we've proven we're a good team. We proved that we could almost overcome a really bad stretch today and really bad 3-point shooting to win on the road against a good team. And it doesn't make it feel better because it's Alabama and we want to beat them. But I think there are some positives to take away from this. You're going to lose games in college basketball. We know this. We're becoming more experienced as a fan base. I know it never gets easier when it's Nate Oates in Alabama, but it's not the end of the world. If we had stolen this game, I would have the exact same concerns if we had somehow, if CBM makes that free throw and we force a turnover and win on a stupid play late, I still would be pretty terrified of what I saw in the first half and scared about the 3-point shooting on the road, which is probably what Jackson would really harp on if he was here.
I mean, that's the thing is if you've watched this team, you've seen a lot of those second half lulls. You saw a massive one against LSU. You saw one for a minute against Vanderbilt. You saw one for maybe the first couple of minutes against Ole Miss in that second half before they gave up. You definitely saw it against A&M where we've seen this team fall asleep at the wheel. And what was interesting was we saw it at the end of the first half in this game where we sort of coasted to the end of the half and took some things for granted. But then we really, I'm so impressed with this second half that in some ways I'm kind of okay with taking this loss now. It had to come eventually, and I think we can improve from this. And I hope what we see on Saturday is a return to that aggressive Jalen Williams. I think he was willing to defer to Johni a lot in the front court, and I think obviously that was the right move. Johni was pretty unstoppable in this game, but I think we need both guys being aggressive and demanding the ball.
Yeah, and look, he had 2 bad turnovers. He had 11 rebounds. I mean, he was physical inside. I thought he did a good job on the glass, but like
especially defensively, yeah.
He had to play the most minutes because they're just not going to play Chaney a ton, and it just disappoints me. Yes, he needs to be aggressive. Yes, he needs to hit open shots. Yes, he needs to make 2 free throws at the end of the game when he's at the line when you get fouled down 3. But and maybe this is the common ground that I always defend Jalen and Ryan and others kind of attack Jalen. Like, it's very disappointing in the first half for him to be sucking wind and needing to get out of the game. Like, yes. And I know it was a brutal half of like fast pace, nothing's going right. But like to see him and Johni and really a lot of our players, like maybe I'm overreacting to that. That was a little concerning to me because you would think we've been fresh.
I do think you're overreacting to it just a little bit because you have to think about how weird the way this game began was. Because you remember our starters went out there, they got hyped up, the adrenaline got spiked, and then they suddenly had to cool off for 20 minutes and try to get back into the game. There is some element where Alabama's another one of those teams where they have a couple of guys that play 25 minutes plus regularly. So they are a little bit more used to that go hard in the first half. We're used to being able to bring Chaney in and have him be effective for 3 to 4 minutes at a time. And that definitely wasn't the case this go around. And I think the same thing, I think Bruce just leaned on Johni more than he has at any other point because Johni was so effective.
But did we lean on Johni, or was Johni the only one that made something of his opportunities? Like that, the concerning thing to me, Jalen is like an archetype of our depth, right? Like all year we've been able to survive because, we have 11 guys. Like it's okay if 2 or 3 guys. Johni can have a scoreless half. It's fine. Everybody else is going to do their thing and it's good. But like in a game like this, Denver I thought was good. Trey was really good in the second half in his minutes. But like outside of that, man, what did you get offensively from anybody else on this team? You didn't get anything. And
if you go back and look, I think the other key thing that happened and why I say he was leaning on Johni was we saw so much less of that 5 out where Johni doesn't have to get all the way down the floor and try to establish himself inside. Later in the first half and in the second half, we constantly saw Johni go straight to the lane. He wasn't able to work his way down the floor more slowly and play from that rim position. He knew he had the matchup inside. They were only sending one guy against him, and he was cooking Pringle and he was cooking Nelson. And so every time he's running the length of the whole floor to try to get position. And I think that got us a little bit out of our game. And I think part of why we saw Jalen disappear in a lot of those instances was Chad Baker-Mazara had a lot of great matchups tonight. Frequently on those elbow cuts, he was shooting over a guy that was much shorter than him, and he had a clear shot at the basket. He made some great jumpers. And Jalen's so masterful at seeing the floor and understanding where the mismatches are that if he doesn't have a mismatch, he doesn't want to exploit his own ability or demand the ball.
It's a good point.
So I think there's a lot there where it's tough. It's tough to watch a loss like this where we had so many things that I think went right and so many good looks that if just a few of those great looks go down, like we saw them at the beginning of the second half, we got a little 3 happy early, but Denver hit. Aiden was getting clean, quality open looks in the court, in the cross court when you needed those 3 points, when you needed a 3 instead of a 2. That you don't want to discourage them to be taking those shots and taking advantage of those looks. So it's hard to really break down this in a way that's going to make sense for the average fan, I guess.
Here's my thought, and the thing I'm saying, you're right. Johni was terrific. We did get the ball to him a lot, but the rest of the team, the other 10 guys, shot 50 times, and shot 34% from the field and 17% from three. So, I think this shows, yes, Jalen's bad game. Yes, he's a fifth-year senior. But like whoever it is, our strength has been the volume of options to score. And I think if you're nervous about something after this game moving forward against better competition, it's like, are we going to have seven? I've been saying for a while, we have seven guys who I think can create offense, and we have a lot of different kinds of weapons. Like we didn't tonight.
Yeah, that's going to be the moment. So let's take a moment now and look forward. We've got Mississippi State coming up on Saturday. That's obviously going to be a huge one. But we've got, including this, we have 7 of the next 10 games that are going to be quad one opportunities. At present, your quad standing can shift based on your metrics, based on your win-loss. So some of these might slide out. Next Wednesday, we've got home against Vanderbilt to close the month of January. And then we're going to start off February with another tough one. We got to go on the road at Ole Miss.
Yep, that'll be one, and that's a good. Well, I think their bench was pretty bad, but that should be quad one probably. Anyway, look, Arkansas is not as good as we thought so far. I still hold out this. I'm always nervous with Arkansas, but they've looked really bad. Vanderbilt, we know is not great. Ole Miss at home, Flanagan thing, cool. We won that. And somebody made a great point. Was it Jackson? Was it you, Ryan? Somebody moving the goalpost. We do that, right? Like on Saturday with the Ole Miss game, it was like, all right, well, we beat Ole Miss, but Ole Miss wasn't very good. And I think if you're not careful, you do that the other way sometimes too, where it's like, well, now we haven't played anybody. Now we played Alabama, and now we lost barely when we didn't shoot and turn the ball over and played bad for a while. Like, I think we're good. I think we're a good team. Can we win enough games to stay in the conference race? Hopefully. My biggest takeaway is just like, maybe this is another level for our new guys of like, this clearly was a unique environment. It's a unique game on the road. It's the biggest road test we've had. And when you look at Aiden struggling, when you look at Cheney did pretty much nothing, but he didn't hurt us, but he didn't really add much. And then Denver, I think, presented himself well on both ends at times. And then Chad did as well, especially in the second half. So, like, can those guys keep coming along? Jackson had always talked about Chad Baker being the guy who could, like, keep getting crazy good. I'm just not sure we have that elite guy outside of Johni. And I think if you're poking holes in this Auburn team, it would be no quad one wins. And do they have enough elite talent to compete with the top teams?
Yeah. And do they have enough elite offense? I think that's the thing we're missing. I think you look at guys like Denver Jones, you look at guys like Dylan Cardwell, even Chad Baker-Mazara at times, and especially guys like Jalen Williams, elite defenders. When we need a stop, we saw them get stops late against App State when it mattered and put us in a position to steal that game. We saw it late again here against Alabama. It was our defense that put us in position to steal that game late. Can we get enough offense in these situations to get us back over that hump if we dig ourselves into a hole?
Yeah. And I think somebody asked about Nate Oates out coaching Bruce. I don't think you can argue that since Nate Oates got to Alabama, they have had a more dynamic offense than us. I think every time we play them, I'm reminded of, but the defense matters, the depth matters, the developing guys for the league, matters. Like Bruce is doing a ton of stuff really well. I just think when we play this Alabama team, and look, to be fair, this is such a basketball conversation because you and I are bummed, and you're right. If a couple shots go in and we do something in overtime, we're like celebrating, even though it's the same exact game. That's just like we lost barely to them last year when we got swept, when they were a much better team and we were not as good of a team. So like, it's not like we're way off. It's not like he's killing us or anything, but they are a worthy opponent and rival. And man, we really need to get that one in Neville just to.
I think someone pointed out recently that we've won between the two of us 5 of the last 12 SEC regular season and tournament titles.
Yeah.
That's a really fun rivalry. That's a really fun place to be in for the state for basketball. It does make it tough for recruiting a little bit, but like you look at a guy like Mark Sears. Mark Sears grew up in Muscle Shoals and transferred back here from Ohio as a star player there. His last year at Ohio, he was averaging 19 points a game. He's back to doing that here. The transfer portal has changed the game. We went out and got a guy like Denver Jones. He's a hometown guy that went and scored 20 points a game for FIU. And now we brought him back, and he wants to come back and play for the Auburn Tigers. So I don't think Bruce is done building this program up. And I don't think we're done competing in the SEC this season.
We're in the heyday, man. We're this is it. Who's got it better than us, as somebody else would say in another sport. We're having a great time. We're having fun. We almost pulled out an amazing win after being down 14 on the road against our rival. Yeah, if you're freaking out after this, you need to watch more basketball and calm down. Because if you're paying attention, this happens. It's hard to win on the road. I think you had a great tweet that just like, this team's good. It's hard to win on the road against good competition. Sometimes even against bad competition, right? Like that's the fun of the sport. And
Kansas, one of the best teams in basketball, went on the road to Morgantown, West Virginia, against a team with an interim coach completely trying to rebuild, and West Virginia shot the lights out because it was their Super Bowl. You know, you want to be the team that other teams show up for. And guess what? Auburn is the team that other teams show up for now.
It's just frustrating when I don't think we played our best basketball tonight at all. We didn't really play Auburn basketball.
We didn't play 40 minutes. We didn't play 40 minutes of our best basketball.
Yeah.
And we haven't all year. And Bruce has been saying that again and again. And, you know, the team was asking him last week if he's having fun yet. And he said no, because I think Bruce can see it too. Bruce can see we haven't put together 40 minutes of our best Auburn basketball. And if the team didn't believe it before, I bet they're sitting in their locker room right now going, man, if we had 5 more minutes, I think we could have got him.
For sure.
And 5 more minutes came at the end of the first half, and we let this game get away from us.
Yeah. I want to talk about the officiating real quick. And then we at least have to go on some sort of rant about the beginning of this broadcast, because my goodness. So there's an interesting thing with Bruce's team. We've always talked about, we don't think it helps us to have a tight whistle when you're calling everything. You know, it just feels like it gets us in foul trouble. It puts the other team at the line. We can't play the aggressive style of defense. I thought tonight was one of the rare instances where the refs just weren't calling much until maybe later in the second half. But like, even then, the refs did not, they let a lot go. They let a lot of contact go.
Oh my goodness.
And we did not match the physicality and adjust to that, I don't think. And I think it was just interesting to watch that play out, because Jackson even said in the second half, it's like, I want this to get mucked up. I want it to, like, you know, I want us to make things, I want chaos, right? I want the Auburn Flying Tigers energy. And Alabama can thrive in that. They want to get up and down the floor. They want to take quick shots. They want to get to the line and take open threes that are a little aggressive. Like, so I just found it interesting that maybe the lack of a tight whistle kind of, I don't know if it helped us tonight. And I credit the refs. Like, we were concerned about getting terrible foul calls and getting our guys fouled out, which Johni, you can say he fouled out, but it was meaningless at the end. I mean, it didn't mean anything.
Yeah. The game is pretty much over at that point. No, and you know, foul disparity wise, they called more fouls against Alabama than they did for us. We finished with only one more personal foul than Alabama did, 20-19. Alabama shot 19 free throws. We shot 18. So, you know, for a hostile environment, that's about as even as you could hope the game would be. But I think one of the reasons why this year we were hoping for a slightly tighter game is we're a better free throw shooting team.
Yeah.
We're shooting better than we have in the Bruce Pearl era, particularly our big guys. And I think probably the most frustrating thing for us was with that second lineup, our inability to attack the basket. Dylan Cardwell only put up 2 shots tonight. Trey Donaldson was not able to attack the basket super effectively. He finished 3 of 5 from the floor, but 2 of those baskets were 3-pointers late when we needed a shot. Katie Johnson scored all 3 of his baskets inside, but only went to the line for and ones. You know, he wasn't doing that crazy thing where he's drawing contact inside. Probably the only one who was really effective at that was Chad Baker-Mazara.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even that, 3 of those were that play at the end. You know, I mean, he got a couple of times. He flopped around.
Aiden shot 3 free throws. Denver Jones shot 2. Jalen shot 2. Johni shot 2. That feels a little unusual for the style of basketball we've been playing this year.
Yeah, it does. You know, honestly, one of the things I noticed in the first half was like, I realized how good Trey has been off the bench. And when he and that group was kind of stymied in the first half, it just didn't feel right. And Trey was a huge part of that second half run. I mean, he 3 assists, 0 turnovers. I think those were all in the second half. And he made a couple big threes. He had another one. The one he missed, man, it was a good look, and it was almost down. Like you said. So can we talk about the beginning of the game and the lights and the bright? Because I just have to do this.
Not just the beginning of the game, because we had a second pause. So if you didn't get to watch the broadcast tonight, the game started off, and most stadiums they go dark to do the starting lineup intros. You have some fancy light effects. Then the lights come up and you play ball. Well, half the lights in the stadium didn't come up. And listener, do you want to guess which half didn't come up? It was the half that Auburn was shooting on. So Auburn wins the opening tip. The lights still haven't come on. They go down the floor, run a nice rotation, the 5 out. Johni from the wing hits a 3-pointer. Alabama gets the ball and starts to go down towards the lit side of the gym when the officials finally decide to stop play and say, "Can someone do something about the lights?" Matt, have you ever seen anything like this?
No. And even in the game, you're so hyped up. It's like, yeah, it looks weird, and it's not getting any better. And half the court looks darker than the other. It was all very odd. So first of all, Alabama, get your crap together. Like, what are we doing?
Poverty program.
And it took like 20 minutes. I mean, it took forever to like.
We tipped at 7:35. It was 7:50 before the officials gave them the 2 minutes to get warmed up and come back out there.
Kudos to Johni for just like, hey, I'm just gonna hit a 3 in the dark. It's great. But
and then at the first official TV timeout, we were having issues again on the Auburn side of the court, where ordinarily, the back of the backboard lights up when you get to the end of the foul clock, and that was not happening. They were having issues with the light on the backboard.
Crazy. Coleman, get it together. But
the poverty program, the airline hangar is not doing it, man.
Perhaps worse than that, Ben. Like, some people, I'm going to try to do this very carefully because we're not supposed to talk about another sport. Some people were mad that a certain play was shown, which I would fully expect from it. Of course, they're going to show a play that was significant that happened in another sport in this game. That is, you just have to deal with it. It's ESPN, whatever.
Sometimes you got to let a naysayer know, right?
But the thing that blew my mind was that ESPN's plan for this game, this hyped biggest SEC game of the season so far, probably. We're going to have the quarterback for another team in another sport sit courtside with the 2 announcers. And if the lights hadn't gone out, Ben, he would have been talking about whatever.
About another sport.
Segment about another sport. Like, what are we doing? That blew my mind.
If Ryan were here, Ryan would defend these broadcasters. I hated this broadcast. I thought it was terrible. I thought they chose really strange times to do interviews, including, this weird cover moment. Say what you will about Alabama being unranked. We've talked so much about how hyped they are in the analyticals. They're ranked highly in the net. They're ranked highly in KenPom. If you know the sport, those are the things that matters. Why are you wanting to talk about another sport right in the middle of this marquee rivalry matchup in basketball? Like, Alabama's had great basketball players in their history. Obviously, you don't want to bring the player that was their great player last year back in because he's got controversy of his own. But there's somebody you can bring in to talk ball and not talk about another sport. And then they brought in a guy who won the PGA tournament.
Yeah. But I've seen that with ESPN.
Golf.
I'm accustomed to them doing it in the middle of games when they want to burn 5 minutes in the middle of a game, especially like non-conference games. I'm cool. Yeah. Cool with that. I don't like it, but I've accepted it. I have never seen that to start a massive game ever. And I just can't believe that it would happen. Like, basketball in this state has become so too big for that. Like, that is, I know it sounds like I'm an Auburn fan going crazy here, but like, I just don't understand that was an idea that they decided to try to maybe that's why the lights went out, because that is just so wrong on so many levels. All right, I'm done.
Yeah, no, there were so many things wrong with the start of this game that it doesn't surprise me that we played a bad first half.
How concerned are you about Aiden?
Say again?
How concerned are you about Aiden? Jackson's really concerned about Aiden.
look, he's a freshman, all right? And, we went over this in non-conference. I brought everyone the stats. If you want to go back and listen to our SEC preview, I think you can hear it talked about in there too. Where Aiden's stats are in relation to his other McDonald's All-Americans, his other five-star recruits that came in this season. Previously speaking, Aiden's been on pace, in particular with his assist to turnover ratio. We didn't bring Aiden in to be a volume scorer. I think everybody got really excited because he dropped 19 against Baylor. He hit some amazing three-pointers early, but we've seen his shot struggle on the road and over the course of 40 minutes. We know he can hit. I think he's averaging about 2.5 three-pointers a game. So he's not even averaging 3 made three-pointers a game, which is what you would think of as a big-time effective three-point shooter. But we brought him in to run the point, and he's still doing that incredibly effectively. He finished with 3 assists and 1 turnover, right on his numbers there. That means he's making 3 baskets. He's manufacturing 3 made shots for every time he turns the ball over. I mean, that's insane for an 18-year-old kid, especially someone that's a little bit undersized. He's coming in at only 6'1", yes, which, means he's probably closer to 6 feet because how they like to lie on the scouting report. But 3-point shooters in college basketball are always going to be streaky. That's one of the challenges of playing on the road in these tough environments away from home when you're a young kid. Your stroke is not as consistent.
Yeah. He's got a great shooting stroke. He really does. But I will agree with Jackson. Like it has been quite a few games where he seems to be struggling to hit. You just have to, he's a 5-star freshman though, like you said, and Bruce, good luck. He's always going to have a green light to take, especially open shots. Now, maybe you don't like some of the off balance ones and some of the forced ones that feel forced at times, but we've seen him hit a ton of great shots this year. And even as bad as it's been, I pulled up the 3-point shooting just to give people an update, because on a night when the 3-point shooting let us down and maybe was the biggest difference here, Jalen's at 42.2, just torching the 3-point line. Trey's at 40.5.
Tonight.
He was, but this is counting tonight's stats. 42% for the season from Jalen, 40.5 from Trey. Chad Baker's at 38. Those are the only 3 guys over 33%. And Aiden has fallen to 33%. Denver's at 33%, and everybody else is under 30. So that has started to regret. We're still 33% as a team, which is kind of about where we want to be at. We'd love to be better, but so just pointing that out.
I would be more concerned if this team wasn't built to be so front court dominant. I think between Johni Broome, Dylan Cardwell, and Jalen Williams, you have guys that can bully inside for their points. I mean, this was a matchup that we thought Johni Broome needs to eat, and man, did he eat. The tricky part with watching Jalen's game again is that he's so great at deferring. His defense is so incredible. I mean, 11 rebounds tonight for second place on the team, behind Janai's insane 14. Jalen hits 1 or 2 of those open 3-pointers. It's a completely different conversation. So you can't look at someone's game in the microcosm. And I feel the exact same way about Aiden Holloway. We've seen him have some of these scoreless games, but I mean, look at him late. He drove the ball inside late, got to the line, and hit his free throws. Mm-hmm. What more do you want from an 18-year-old kid? Not everyone's going to be able to come in and be a Sharif Cooper and drop 20 points a game.
Well, and Sharif couldn't shoot like this. I mean, Sharif couldn't shoot. He was an amazing passer, but couldn't shoot's a strong word. His 3-point shot was a work in progress.
Yeah, no, Sharif was an ISO guy all the way, and we loved him for it. We got another point guard coming in next season that's going to be, I think, in a similar mold. But let's not talk about next season too much just yet.
What was I was going to say one more thing. What was it?
Was it something that Ryan or Jackson wanted you to talk about? We got a few more things in the chat here. Canoe Man says, reading between the lines, BP saw this coming and said we probably needed it. Hopefully BP has their attention now. I think so. I love for the fans to get the chance to peacock. It's always a little dangerous for the players, particularly in college basketball, because even if a team is 5-10, and it's honest, especially when a team is 5-10, if you show up with a single digit next to your team logo in their arena, they got a chance for their season to mean something. Every one of them will be like, yeah, but you remember the time we beat Kansas? Yeah, but remember the time we beat Duke? And especially when they're at home, that's a chance for them to really show out, get the home crowd excited, have their season mean something by beating one of those marquee teams. We're one of those marquee teams now. You got to get used to it. You got to get used to going on the road and getting a good shot. And when it's against a good team like Alabama, it's going to be a great shot.
I think my closing thought would be like, it's different because it's Alabama.
Yeah.
Like it just is. We can own that. It's part of the rivalry. Um, you know, Jackson said in our text, learning experience. Glad we fought. We're still in the SEC race. We lost a golden opportunity to own our own destiny. I don't understand that because by being in first place, we definitely still own our own destiny. We would own it if we were a game behind these teams too. So like, we're still fine. Like, we gave up an opportunity not only to win in the rivalry on the road and set ourselves up for a potential sweep, which would have been awesome. And we gave up an opportunity to have solo first place and 2 games up on Alabama. Like that is a big lost opportunity, but it's really not a huge deal in the grand scheme of things. You got to play the next game, and we responded really well to the Baylor loss. We responded really well to the App State loss, and we have a bunch of veterans on this team, and I fully expect us to kind of flush it. But look, winning on the road at Mississippi State's not going to be easy either. I just hate to break it to everybody. We're going to have some tough ones, like you pointed out.
Yeah, we got a tough one coming up. It's probably going to be ugly like this one was, but even more low scoring. Tolu Smith is back, and he's a big body inside, but I think we can defend him well. I think he's actually a good defensive matchup for Johni. He's not one of those monstrous 7-footers. He's I believe 6'10 and a half, 6'11, but he's got great post moves. It's going to be interesting to see how we contain him. It's going to be interesting to see we're going back on the road. Can we hit some more of these open shots? We are creating great looks for ourselves. When they fall, we're a different team. That's what we need.
You just got to hope that first half is an aberration of like a lot of bad factors on the road. Huge game for Alabama. They're claiming a victory, a trophy in another sport, so their fans actually showed up. Like it's you just got to hope all those factors came aligned, and we did not handle it well for most of that first half. And it is not indicative of who this team is unless we see that more frequently against the best teams, and we just got to hope that that's not the case. Let's calm the panic button. We're 16-3. We're first in the SEC. Let's play it out. Let's play ball.
Let's play ball. Let's go chase a ring, Matt. War Eagle.
War Eagle.
YouTube, thanks for hanging out through the craziness. Ooh, Ryan just hopped in the chat. Mississippi State lost again tonight. Excellent. Do we think that knocks them out of quad 1 contention because they were in the 40s? Who do they play?
I mean, they won't drop out of 75. You got to be way down there for the road games. So
that's right. I forgot 75.
And they were on the road at Florida. So I mean, the road games are tough, man. Alabama just got skunked at Tennessee.
Matt, the week after this, we've got to go. We got Alabama at home, and then we got to go to the Swamp. That to me is a big week. If we can beat Alabama at home, and then if we can somehow to go to Gainesville and pull that one off, that's the last scary road game that's on our calendar. Like obviously Tennessee is going to be tough, but like we should beat Florida, and that's a game that if we lose, I feel like is really going to hurt.
We got some stuff working in our favor in terms of Tennessee and Kentucky play each other twice.
Yeah.
Alabama still has to play Kentucky. I don't think they play them twice, but
look this. Alabama, they got LSU at home, and then they got to go to Georgia. That could be a sneaky tough game.
Yeah, Georgia won again.
Yeah, they got A&M at home, which doesn't help us. They got to go to Kentucky. They got to go to Ole Miss, and then in March they get Tennessee at home. They got to go to Gainesville, and then Arkansas at home is their final game.
Tennessee has to play Alabama and Kentucky twice. And us at home.
Rick Barnes is going to throw a fit. All right, YouTube, Matt, I'm out of here.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
Saturday.